Send your stories in our Facebook page and be featured in our next videos. Link is in the description. It was a moonless night, and the forest around me was shrouded in darkness. I had set up camp near an old, abandoned cabin that I had heard was haunted. The air was heavy with an eerie stillness as I lit my campfire and settled in for the night. I stared into the dancing flames, lost in thought, when I heard the faint sound of laughter. It was unmistakable, the laughter of children. I looked around, convinced that I was alone, but there was no one in sight. The laughter continued, growing louder and more mischievous. Suddenly, the shadows seemed to come alive, taking on the form of small, ghostly figures. They danced around my campfire, their laughter echoing through the night. I couldn't believe my eyes. These were the spirits of children long gone. One of them, a young girl with a tattered dress and hollow eyes, approached me. She reached out her hand as if asking me to join in their spectral game. My heart raced, but curiosity overcame fear, and I tentatively reached out to touch her hand. As soon as our hands met, I was transported to a different time and place. I stood in front of the cabin, but it was no longer abandoned. It was alive with activity, children playing and laughing, their faces filled with joy. I realized I was a part of their world, a witness to their long-forgotten happiness. But the scene quickly shifted, and darkness enveloped the cabin. The children's laughter turned to cries of terror, and I watched in horror as the cabin burned to the ground. The ghostly figures surrounded me, their eyes filled with sorrow and accusation. I was torn from the vision, back to my campfire, and the ghostly children vanished. I was left alone in the darkness, shaken to my core. The cabin, the children, it was all a haunting reminder of a tragic past that I had stumbled upon. I packed up my camp and left the haunted woods, vowing never to return. But the memory of that night and the ghostly campfire still haunts me, a reminder that sometimes the past refuses to stay buried, and the spirits of the dead have stories they are desperate to tell. I had always been an avid camper, seeking solace in the quiet embrace of nature. One summer, I decided to venture into the deep woods, far away from civilization, in search of the ultimate camping experience. I found a remote spot near a tranquil stream, surrounded by towering trees. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I set up my campfire and settled into my cozy sleeping bag. The night was eerily silent, and an unsettling feeling washed over me. I tried to shake it off as mere nerves. That's when I heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible. I strained my ears, trying to make sense of the words. The voice was soft and melodic, almost inviting. It seemed to come from the direction of the woods. My curiosity got the best of me, and I grabbed my flashlight, making my way towards the source of the sound. The woods were dense, and the trees seemed to close in around me as I ventured further. The whisper grew louder and more distinct. It was almost like a chant, an ancient incantation. Panic began to rise within me, but I couldn't stop myself from moving forward. Finally, I reached a small clearing. In the center stood a solitary tree, its branches twisted and gnarled. The whispering was coming from the tree itself. As I shone my flashlight upon it, the trunk began to writhe and contort, as if it were alive. The whispers turned into a cacophony of voices, speaking in languages I couldn't understand. Terrified, I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. That's when I noticed something even more chilling. The tree's roots were moving, slowly crawling towards me. I turned and ran, crashing through the underbrush as the voices echoed behind me. I could feel their presence, closing in on me. I made it back to my campsite, grabbed my gear, and left without a second thought. The whispers continued to haunt my dreams, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something ancient and malevolent in those woods. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed a moment longer.